Hi, this is Howie Roseman. Welcome to the Philly Show.
Tomorrow, Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zalecki. It's the Philly Show. It's Friday, September 5th, 2025. Hope everybody's doing well. Everybody's in a good mood on Friday in Philly. Phillies beat the Brewers. Thursday afternoon series finale. They took 2 out of 3 against the best team in Major League Baseball. And then the Eagles, of course, win their season opener Thursday night at the Link. It was an interesting game. Before it even got going, interesting game. I'm watching the game, and I'm like, did Jalen Carter just spit on Dak Prescott? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. They found a way, though.
They said this was the season of great expectorations.
Jim, I see what you did there. That's pretty funny. I will say this. First of all, there's no place in any sport or any time to do anything like that. Right. It's a retaliatory move because Dak apparently spit towards it, Jalen Carter, and he retaliated by spitting back at him. Childish. Can we see some growth, please? Can we have a little growth?
I've never been spit on. I've never spit on anybody. I was watching the game with my kids. I said, that is like the worst thing you could do to somebody. Please never do that. Like, we would never. So I'm like, all right, good. Don't do that. Never an excuse to do that.
Not a good precedent to set, especially before the first snap or whatever the hell it was.
Exactly right. But hey, the Phillies, though, they did beat the Brewers on Thursday, 2-0. They won the 3-game series, like I mentioned. They have a 6-game lead over the Mets in the National League East. They have a 3-game lead over the Dodgers for the number 2 seed. And if you really want to get crazy, think that something crazy could happen this month, they only trail the Brewers by 4.5 games for the number 1 seed. Just wanted to throw it out there. It's a little bit of a long shot, but crazier things have happened. Thursday's episode, we asked you, our viewers, our listeners on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, for your Phillies questions, and you guys sent us a bunch. And let's get going. It's time for the Park First Pitch. First Pitch is brought to us exclusively by our partners at Parx Casino, Pennsylvania's number 1 casino. All right, let's just jump right into this. I got a lot of questions based around this central theme, so this seemed like a good first pitch question. This is from Michael Stark on Blue Sky, and then Bennett Brown 76 on Instagram asked something very similar. As of today, what gives you the most confidence in this team's ability to win the World Series? And on the flip side, what is your biggest concern? And Bennett Brown said, just do you think the Phillies have a chance at making the World Series?
Go ahead, Rube.
So it's going to be a strange answer. I think the bullpen is the thing that makes me the most confident right now. And I say that because they got the best bullpen piece they possibly could have gotten in Jhoan Duran. I think it's just so huge that he got this, that they got that done, and it sort of sets up everybody all the way down. I don't necessarily think that it's the best bullpen, but I do believe that it puts them in a position more so this year than in any other year, as far as that bullpen is concerned, is to shut down a game when it needs to be shut down. Mm-hmm. They did a really good job in the last couple of games against the Brewers, and that's what you can envision happening when they get a small lead. It's really hard to hold down like a 1 or 2 run lead, and that's what they might have to do. They couldn't do it last couple of years, and I think that they have a much better chance of getting that done this year, because they have Jhoan Duran in their bullpen, a guy who throws strikes you can have a ton of confidence in. And the other thing that I will also mention is that I believe that they've never had this kind of defense in the last 3 or 4 years. They've never had this kind of quality defense. The outfield, if you put together Max Kepler in right, Bader in center, and Marsh in left, that's a very, very good, one of the best defensive outfields in baseball. And then you start thinking about how well the guys have played, particularly the guy at shortstop. Turner has been outstanding. Harper's been good at first. We know how good Stott is, even though I had a little He had a little faux pas in that series. That rarely will happen, may not ever happen again. And Bone's been playing better. So the defense and the quality of the defense and the quality of the back end of the bullpen, I think, are what gives me confidence that they can hoist the trophy at the end.
Well, I mean, I have confidence that they can win the World Series. I think there's going to be 12 teams in the postseason tournament, and any one of them can win it. I think it's really wide open. But I think a lot of teams have the talent to do it. It's about who plays well. I know that sounds like crazy and simplistic. Who plays well for 3.5 weeks is going to win the World Series. And the Phillies are capable of playing very well for 3 weeks. They have a lot of good pieces. I love your point about the outfield defense, Ruben. Zack Wheeler's a big loss, obviously. I'm concerned about the right-handed bat behind Harper. But that said, they still have a lot of talent. I've seen this team get hot for stretches and play really well in all phases of the game, and they are capable of doing that for 3.5 weeks and raising the trophy. In 2022, they got hot for 3 weeks and got to the World Series. There's no reason they can't. They have flaws. They have concerns. The offense can disappear and, not hit with runners scoring position, rack up the strikeouts. It's in their DNA. We know it's there. If it rears its head at the wrong time, they're going home. But they have the full capability to put something together here and do it. I love the fact that they have Kyle Schwarber. I think he's a winner. He's in a little lull right now, and that might be the calm before the storm. So we'll see. So, I don't, like I said, no slam dunk World Series winner in this year's tournament. And they're fully capable. Todd, what do you think?
Yeah, so my biggest concern, same thing, the hot and cold offense. We've seen it. They score 10 runs one game, 19 hits, and then they score 4 runs over the next 3 games. We've seen it happen in the postseason. We see it happen in the regular season. So that's number one. That's a big concern. Losing Zack Wheeler. We spent most of Thursday talking about do they have a right-handed starter that's going to pitch in this postseason? If not, how are they going to handle that? That to me is a concern. But here's why I think that they can make the World Series. Here's why I think they can win the World Series. And Jim, you mentioned this. It's a wide open race. The Dodgers, they just got swept by the Pirates. You know what the Dodgers record is since July 3rd? They're 22-30. That's the 3rd worst record in the National League since July 3rd. The Mets, after they swept the Phillies, lost 3 of 4 to the Marlins. Now the Phillies are playing the Marlins this weekend. The Mets are 13-21 since July 27th. That's the 3rd worst record in the NL in that span. The Cubs are a 500 team since July 19th. The Padres just got swept by the Orioles. They're 7-12 since August 13th. And since the Brewers won 13 in a row, they just lost 2 or 3 to the Phillies at home. Since the Brewers won 13 in a row, they're 8-11. So that's my way of saying every team has flaws. So yes, the Phillies' hot and cold offense, big concern going to the playoffs. You don't know what you're going to get. They could get knocked out in the wild card series if they finish with the 3rd seed. I could very easily see that happen. I could see them getting swept in the division series, but I could also see the Dodgers getting swept in the division series. The Brewers, crapping the bed and getting knocked out in the division series. The Mets, the Cubs, the Padres, every single one of these teams has serious flaws. We don't see them every day, so we don't notice them. We don't talk about it. But I can tell you that Dodgers fans are worried about their team. Padres, Cubs, Brewers, every team has concerns. Look at those records that I just mentioned. And that's why I think the Phillies can go on a deep run, because they're talented. They got a good offense. They got a good rotation, even without Wheeler. They've got a good bullpen. They've got a good defense. But like Jim said, they just have to play well. So there you go.
There's no lest we forget, history does repeat itself. Last year, Jim very adroitly talked about the fact that the Phillies from June 15th on were just a 500 team. And it reared its head in the playoffs. They played like a 500 team. They just did not play well enough to advance, and they got beat up by the Mets. So you just never know. Now, a couple years before that, they had gotten hot, and so they got an opportunity to get a little longer into the playoffs, because They were playing hot baseball. It's about who's hot and who's playing the best baseball at the time, and there's no super teams.
Great question. And that was a great first pitch topic. And first pitch is presented exclusively by our partners at Parks Casino, Pennsylvania's #1 casino. ParksCasino.com is the website. You must be 21. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
FT fans, you want to have confidence when you go out in public? Absolutely. We can't all wear a backwards hat like me, but you can get some True Classic fit shirts. It almost looks like, oh, wow, this shirt was tailored for me. Nope, it's every True Classic. This John is soft, it is smooth, and it makes you look a little jacked. I'm just saying.
And Kratz, you are jacked, and you are spot on. True Classic is the spot to go if someone's like, where do I get shirts? True Classic. The colors are fantastic. They've sold over 25 million shirts to more than 5 million customers. Their shirts just win. The feel, the tailored look, the price. We all wear True Classic on FT. I mean, Cam Maben literally can't say enough about them too. Next time we have Cam on. Hit up trueclassic.com/foul. Give it a shot. Upgrade your wardrobe and save on True Classic at trueclassic.com/foul. That's trueclassic.com/FOUL.
All right, we're back. Kevin D'Amico on X asked a question, kind of postseason related, and it is this. Do you think the Phillies offense has made meaningful changes to their approach from last year? Their on-base percentage, the slugging percentage, the strikeout rate are almost identical to 2024. Watching them swing and miss against Jose Quintana, I guess that was, Wednesday in Milwaukee, has been feeling a certain way, or has me feeling a certain way. That's from Kevin D'Amico. Basically, I think he's kind of talking about that. It's in their DNA, Jim, the hot and cold aspect of this team. Do you guys see any improvements? Do you see a different offense heading toward October than last year?
Quintana does that to the Phillies, man. He can get you out off the plate. He knows the Phillies inside and out from signing with the Mets and in the National League for years. He's really, really good at getting guys to expand their zone and chase. I feel you. I get scared every time I see them facing him because I know he can exploit their weakness. It's still there. The chase is still there. But I do think it's been reeled in a little bit, at least as I look at it kind of with the naked eye. I think Trey Turner's made great improvements. We talked about this last week, how he's proven to be very coachable offensively and defensively, but offensively, I mean, they sat him down. They said, hey, we want you to make significant changes. And I feel like he has made those changes. Maybe the numbers aren't showing it, but with the naked eye, I feel like they are have gotten a little more selective and maybe have eliminated some of the droughts. And I think if they get on a stretch where they're bringing the ball over the plate and having good at bats, they can be a formidable team. But if they start stretching that strike zone, they're not going to. I mean, I think the fact that we're seeing that platoon now in the outfield and Castellanos is getting fewer at bats, I mean, that's probably going to impact it a little bit and lead to some improvement. So, I look at the job Kevin Long's done with JT, had a great run, and with Trey, and Stott's made a good adjustment. I see improvement on the offense. I really do. Ruben?
Yeah, so I think this team has gone through some phases, and here's the phase. So in the early part of the season, one of the things, they were making a concerted effort to stay on the plate, right, and make better swing decisions. As a result, we had a little bit of a suffering of the power. Remember, there was no slug in the early part of the season. Mm-hmm. Well, I think they started to make that adjustment to the point where, okay, now we feel comfortable with that phase of things. Let's start opening up and let's start swinging the bats. Let's be a little bit more athletic in the box. And they have done that. Now, the numbers as far as their selectivity have gone down a little bit, but their power numbers and their slug numbers, Marsh, Stott, JT, all types of guys has been increased dramatically. And so I think that there's a phase that's happening. And I honestly, in a lot of ways, if you're an optimist, you think by the time they get to September and October, they're going to have it all together, right? They'll pull it all together. Now, they're going to be streaky. They're going to continue to be a little bit streaky. That's the type of team they are. But I think that the streaks themselves have lessened a little bit. And I do believe that I see a lot of improvement. I mean, I see improvement on Kepler. I see improvement on Marsh, obviously. I see improvement on Stott. Now, the two guys that I feel need to step forward are Harper, who has not really been all that great this year. He's been sort of okay. He hasn't had like the protection. I think that's part of it that he's had in the past. I think that's a big part of it. Now Schwarber has that protection from Harper, and it was a flip-flop last year a little bit. But and Bohm has to sort of come around. You see him getting dropped down in the lineup a little bit. He has not been himself. And so I think you need some improvements with those two guys. But I do see these phases happening in a way that's positive, and that gives me some hope that at the end of the day, some of the adjustments they made early and some of the adjustments they made late as far as the slug is concerned are putting them in a really good position as they get closer and closer to the playoffs.
They are trending in the right direction. So, Jim, I think you mentioned how they started out hot last year, and then they kind of played like a 500 club down the stretch.
They were over the final.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Over the final 102 games last year, including the Mets series in October, the final 102 games, they were exactly a 500 team, like 51 and 51. Right.
So the numbers right now match up in terms of on base percentage, similar slugging percentage is similar, unless you look at what their numbers are since the All-Star break. So right now, the Phillies, since the All-Star break, averaging 5.23 runs per game. Last year, after the All-Star break, 4.65. Their on-base percentage this season, after the All-Star break, is 10 points higher than it was last year after the All-Star break. Their slugging percentage is, I got to do math, 44 points higher than it was after the All-Star break last year. So it is a team, again, I don't know, maybe they get knocked out in 3 games in the NLDS. I don't know, but they are trending in the right direction, and they are playing better in the second half this year offensively than they were in the second half last year offensively.
And when your slug goes up, it's connected to your pitch selection, because you're pounding the pitches that you should be, the pitches that are over the plate. So I do see signs of hope,
Right.
Signs of improvement.
Donald C58 on X says, can the Phillies get away with a 3-man rotation? Phillies fan 75 on Blue Sky says Aaron Nola or Taijuan Walker on the postseason roster. Hayfield Baseball on Instagram says, who's the 4th starter come October? Coach Wacko on X, is there any way we can allow Aaron Nola to start a postseason game at this point? Lots of rotation questions. So I thought I'd throw them all out there, and whatever you guys want to jump in and address, the lots of concerns about the rotation.
So let me get into this a little bit. So I do believe in my heart of hearts that Aaron Nola will figure it out. I do believe this. And I do believe this because he's a veteran. I know he struggled with that early part of the game where he's getting beat up, and that can be really detrimental. But I do believe that he is going to figure it out to the point where he's going to be able to be part of this rotation. And I know that the fans probably are really nervous about that, and should be, because he's had his worst season he's ever had in the big leagues right now. And there's a lot of talk about, him not being the same pitcher from now until the end of his contract. And that may be true, but I do believe that he's going to figure it out. I like the way that he pitched after the first couple of innings of his last couple of starts. Mm-hmm. His stuff was very Aaron Nola-esque. You focus on the crappy innings, obviously, because it knocked them out of those games, or could have. In the one case, they scored 19 runs and bailed them out. But the other case, obviously with the Brewers, with better ball club, they ended up, getting beat up 6-3. But after that tough inning, he actually ended up pitching pretty darn well. He has to get command of his fastball. His command of his fastball is sort of the bread and butter. If you don't have it, if you're Aaron Nola, you're screwed. And, if he can get that back, and I do think he can figure it out to the point where he is going to be ready to take the baseball when it's time to take the baseball. Now, is he going to be the first or second starter? No. Is he going to be the third or fourth? Probably. And that's where I think he's going to land. And I do think he's going to figure it out. I have the optimism based on the person he is, based on the pride that he has, and based on the fact that his stuff has upticked a little bit as far as his velocities and stuff are concerned. I think he's going to figure it out. Maybe I'm being way too optimistic or clueless, but the reality of it is that that I believe in the man, and I believe in the fact that he's going to somehow figure it out.
That'd be huge. That would be absolutely huge. So RedJ888 on Instagram says, with the uncertainty of Aaron Nola, he's got 5 years left in that deal, with the uncertainty of Zack Wheeler, with Andrew Painter not making that July-ish promotion, does signing Ranger become a possibility? Ranger Suárez become a possibility in the offseason? At the very beginning of the season, we ranked the 3 guys, and we all agreed, no shot Ranger comes back. They're going to let him walk. They can't afford all these guys. They've got all these guys locked up in long-term deals. There's no way Ranger comes back. Qualifying offer, I think, is a no-brainer. That's going to happen. You're going to give him a qualifying offer, so at least you get a draft pick or 2 back. But what do you think, guys? I mean, you don't know what Nola's going to be like. You don't know if Zack Wheeler's going to bounce back. You let Ranger walk, and now you're sitting there going, all right, we got Luzardo, Sanchez. Oh boy.
I'm sure the conversation on the executive level of the ballpark has changed a little bit in light of Wheeler's injury, in light of Nola's struggles. The fact that Painter's a young guy, he'll probably have, he'll be here, but he's going to have a growing pain or two. They all do on the way up. But even with the conversation changing, I just feel like he's probably going to be a budget cut because you have Schwarber to deal with, and you need to address behind the plate. Maybe Real Muto's back. I think there's a pretty good chance he is back. And you couple all that with as good as Ranger has pitched lately, and he's a joy to watch. When he's on, there are those questions about the track record and the durability that I think you have to weigh over a long-term deal. In a perfect world, he'd take that qualifying offer, but I think there's going to be a nice payday for him out there.
Right. So
I think it has changed the conversation, but at the end, I would think he'd probably be in a different uniform next year, but we'll see.
I think so.
So here's where I'm at on Ranger Suárez. There's like 2 left-handed starters who are going to be free agents next year. One was Framber Valdez, who's now screwed himself by what he did in Houston to his catcher. So he's put himself in a tough position. And Ranger Suárez. And those 2 guys are probably the 2 best left-handers who are available in free agency. And if someone wants to go get either one of these guys, they're going to probably have to pay handsomely for it. You're talking about a 5 or 6 year deal. I would not do that for Ranger Suárez. If you can get him on a deal that's like a 3-year deal or something like that, that's a quality deal in the 30s, 3 years, $30 million a year, something like that, which is a ton of money, but that's what these guys are getting these days. I mean, I would consider doing that. Anything longer than that, I would not because of the track record, Jim. And I think that they're going to have to think about other ways to figure it out, figure out that rotation, and hope that guys like Painter will step up, and maybe somebody else that they might target later on. So that's where I'm at on that. I think the priority still is Schwarber and JT ahead of Ranger Suárez right now, unless they can get Ranger in a shorter deal. And I don't think that's going to happen with Boris.
I agree.
Todd, just to kind of backtrack a teeny bit, these rotation questions are really good. They would only need a 3-man rotation in the
NLDS. They would only need
in the DS, which would be their first round. They would get the bye. Their first round is the DS, and they only need 3.
Correct.
So as we sit here today, I got to think it's the 3 left-handers. But if Nola, as Ruben said, continues or shows something down the stretch, maybe they alter. They would not need that 4th until the NLCS if they get there. And that's when you really have to make I would think the Nola or the Luzardo decision. I think you're going to go Sanchez, Ranger 1-2. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I also, you would need a 4th if the Phillies, of course, they finish as a 3 seed. And they have to play the wild card series, and it goes 3 games. Then you might need that 4th starter. So you could technically need that 4th starter in the NLDS if they don't get the first round bye. That's
why the bye is huge,
right? That's why the bye is huge. You advance around, and you get to keep her huge three-man rotation in the NLDS.
If I could, I want to ask Ruben something really quick. You think the Framber Valdez incident the other night, which was awful, terrible teammate behavior, but you think that's going to impact his free agency? I just think somebody's going to say it was it happened once. It was an isolated incident. He'll deal with it in the press conference. Here's your big contract.
Well, I'm not going to sit there and spread rumors, but anytime a person does something like that,
tip of the iceberg.
I think it's a tip of the iceberg in a lot of ways. My understanding is that he may not be the best actor in that clubhouse. So, I don't know. Now, listen, I mean, ultimately it's about performance, right? But you do need to have quality teammates. And if you don't have respect to your teammates, it'll be interesting. Let's just put it this way. It's made it very interesting to see how it's going to all play out.
Ruben, the Eagles, they beat the Cowboys in the series opener on Thursday night, 24-20. I asked you for your hot Eagles take on Thursday's show, and wouldn't you know it, you hit. You said the Eagles would win, but the Cowboys would cover. They would cover.
Nailed it.
Great time to talk about Park Casino.
That's right.
Great time.
If you want to do some betting, I mean, I should probably start my own show, but I'm not that expert, but I was nailed it. So anyway, but if you really wanted to really enjoy doing some betting, because the pro football regular season is here and the Birds are back with that huge win, there are a ton of games that are upon us, a huge slate, but bet more than the score, bet passing and rushing yards, player touchdowns. There's so much you can bet on. My team at the Bet Parks Online Sportsbook and Casino has you covered because they can basically help you do any type of bet known to man. It's the only sportsbook and app that I would ever recommend. BetParks.com has terms and conditions and winners. When you guys have a real great chance to win. It is one of the best places to go and be entertained, go have a nice meal, go chill with your family, and make some bets. It's really the best. And you got to be 21 in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Michigan. If you do have a gambling problem, though, you got to call 1-800-GAMBLER.
So this next question is from Gardner Z45 on Instagram, and I'll answer this one really quickly because I got the answer. I had the benefit of seeing these questions in advance, so I'll just answer this and we'll move on to the next one. Do you think the $10 million mutual option for Harrison Bader will be picked up? I looked this up. There were 34 mutual options, Jim, in the last 3 off seasons. Not a single one was exercised. So either the team or the player rejected their side of the mutual option. So unless Harrison Bader and the Phillies want to break that trend, that 3-year trend, I would say that Harrison Bader will be a free agent after the season. Okay. And that leads us into several questions about what Rob Thompson is doing with the lineup. Would you still run the left field and second base platoon in the playoffs or opt for the best defensive lineman every game? That's from CTSWE on Blue Sky. You can throw it in the right field platoon as well.
Todd, would you if you were the Phillies, you guys, would you pick up the Phillies end of the Harrison Bader $10 million?
I would.
I would too.
I would because $10.5 million is, I don't want to say a steal or a bargain, but for the defense he gives you, you don't know who's going to be playing right field next year. Max Kepler's a free agent. Nick Castellanos might not be back. I think that's fair to say. They've looked to move him the past 2 off seasons. So you might.
I would if I were the Phillies, I'd be open to my half of it, but maybe he wouldn't be.
Right.
He'd want a multi-year, right?
Yeah, I would think he would want a multi-year. That's usually right. I mean, you would think that
he's going to see.
A lot of it depends on how he. A lot of it depends on how he finishes and how he plays in the playoffs. If he plays well in the playoffs, then he's going to dump that.
Yeah, if he has a big.
I would certainly consider it. I mean, there's nothing to lose. $10 million in this day and age is pocket change.
Right, exactly. Do you guys like? And this is 1883 Philly on X. What is a legitimate reason Justin Crawford never got called up? I get the platoon of Marsh Wilson has been good, but the Castellanos Kepler platoon is seriously lacking for a team that is so inconsistent on offense. Why not give the kid a shot? But I do want to say before you guys jump in, the right field platoon, at least on the Max Kepler side, has been very good recently. I mean, Max Kepler in his last 15 starts is batting .291, 4 doubles, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, a .527 slug. He's been very, very good.
Don't forget the defense he brings is big.
Defense has been very, very good. The Marsh platoon and Weston Wilson in left field. Marsh is hitting 300 since the start of June. Weston Wilson has a 753 OPS in the 26 games he started, a 949 OPS in the last 11 games he started. Harrison Bader has been great since the trade deadline. You talk about the platoon at second base. Edmundo Sosa has been hitting lefties all season long. Stott has been better, especially against righties. His OPS is almost 1,000 against righties since August 5th. I ride these platoons. Second base, left field, right field. I run them all the way through.
Agree.
Well, so here's the deal. Does this remind you a little of 1993, my friends? This is exactly the same platoon. Left field, right field, and second base. Mariano
Right.
Duncan and Mickey Morandini at second base. In left field, it was Inky and Milt Thompson. In right field, it was Eisenreich and Wes Chamberlain, and I was sprinkled in a little bit, in a couple of different situations when some boys were hurt. But I will tell you that works, and it is working. And if it's working and it's not broke, don't fix it. And so I would be really happy with it. I think it depends on some of the matchups, lefties and righties and stuff like that. But I got to believe that at the end of the day, if this continues to work through September, and I think this is going to be employed, I do believe that you should just stay right with it. Why not? It's not about hurting people's feelings, baby. It's about winning baseball games.
Absolutely.
And that's what's going to happen.
And Castellanos, he has not been good for a while now, but you need him to get going so he's going to continue to play. You hope that he gets hot. He is insanely streaky. He goes through these stretches where he is like one of the worst offensive producers in baseball. He's been like that before, and then he'll get crazy, crazy hot. So you hope right now he's going through this dreadful streak, and then maybe in a couple weeks he gets hot and he can carry that through, and you have the Kepler Castellanos thing going on and right, and all of a sudden your offense looks a lot better. So
no doubt.
That's what
no doubt.
You could see these platoons coming.
The other thing is that Brandon Marsh does a good job off the bench. I mean, his bench hit numbers are stupid. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. So if you start Wilson in left and you have a tough right-hander come in, you throw Marsh in there, let him whack away, and then put him out there to left field. Simple. Sounds simple.
So Tom Robeson on Blue Sky says, question for Ruben, from a GM perspective, what would you be doing this time of year? There's not really any more moves to be made before the postseason, but there's still a month to play. Where would your focus be right now? So obviously there's no waiver trade deadline anymore. So, but it is September 5th. What are you doing, Ruben? Are you just feet kicked up on the desk?
Sitting back, having a cigar, having a bourbon, and just watching baseball. That's it. No, I mean, obviously you're assessing every single minute, like what you are going to do in the playoffs. You are preparing, you get your scouts out there to see all the teams that are potential playoff teams. You're coordinating some of that and making sure that's happening. You're keeping an eye on potential free agents for next year, potential trade targets. The job never ends, I will assure you. I think that at the end of the day, the game is like sort of the relaxing time where you just sit there and relax. I didn't relax during the games, but that's sort of the entertainment of your job, because you can't do anything about the games. You can't impact the games right now. You can't impact the roster a whole lot unless there's guys hurt or what have you. But you're just observing the games and preparing for next year and the following year, and you're putting yourself in a position to prepare for the playoffs as well.
So real quick, once the trade deadline comes, you got your army of pro scouts. They're out there preparing for the trade deadline. Trade deadline comes and goes. Now are they're focused on next year's or this winter's free agent class, right? And then when
some of them are, some of them are locking into that, but others are actually starting to be deployed for the playoffs. We have 2 or 3 advanced guys. 2 or 3 of those guys are maybe 3 on a team. If it's a real important team that you don't feel good about, maybe it's usually just 2, a guy who focuses on pitching, a guy who focuses on the offense. You might have 3 in certain situations, but yeah, you're getting out there and getting as much information as you possibly can on the clubs that you will possibly face, and you're getting your best scouts on the teams that you know you're going to be facing, or you have much better chance of facing. And I mean, you're trying to find out what size underwear these guys wear. You want to find basically everything there needs to be found out about something a guy tips, or a guy does something in the batter's box, or there's something that they do that you can take advantage of. And it's not just by video, it's also by watching the games and noticing what the manager does and the tendencies and all those sorts of things. There's so many intricate pieces that are associated with doing this, because the one play and the one piece of information that you can get may win you a World Series. It could be the slightest of things, but it may win you a World Series, and that's why these guys are super important.
Yeah, the classic advanced scouting for the postseason story is the Kirk Gibson home run off of Eckersley. The Dodgers scout, I think was it Bob Didier?
Might be
he
Bob
said
Didier.
When Eckersley gets, I think it was a certain count. I think it was 3-1. He tries to back
Mel Didier. Might be Mel Didier. Might have been Mel.
Yeah, big famous scout. And when Eckersley gets to that count, I think it was 3-1. I'd have to go back and look, but he tries to backdoor that slider. And Gibson talks about he could hear Didier's voice in his head as here comes the backdoor slider, and boom. Wow. And there was another great story about the 93 World Series against the Phillies and the Jays, when Ricky was on second base driving Mitch crazy. Mitch would slide step and throw a certain pitch, and that helped Carter a little bit. So I think Gordon Lakey was the Jays advanced guy then. So interesting stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
okay.
Gordon screwed us.
And then he came over.
Right. I
remember talking to
Ed Wade forever.
Yeah, I remember talking to Gordon about that. I'd have to go back and refresh my memory, but that stuff is really interesting. I'd hate to see that stuff go away because everybody relies on video now.
It's great stuff, really good stuff, and important.
We'll wrap up with a couple off the beaten path questions. Our Red Mustang on YouTube wants to know if you guys were able to have a walk-up song. What would you pick?
I had one.
Yeah, what was it, Ruben?
I was U2-1.
Oh,
it was U2-1.
There you go. I don't know what
I had a great riff. I had a great riff in the beginning, and as I walked up, I only briefly because that was just when they were starting doing some of that stuff. It was like 97, 96, 98, something like that.
Yeah.
I used to love when
by U2.
That's a good one.
Scott Rowland was Where the Streets Have No Names by U2. I used to love watching Al Leiter when he was with the Mets. He'd warm up to Rosalita. I thought that was great because he was from the Jersey Shore area. I don't know what I would use. Maybe a little ZZ Top, Rough Boy.
There you go.
What about you, Todd?
I don't know. I don't know what I would pick. It's funny. My son is playing fall baseball. It's like Savannah Banana style baseball. And it's very, it's just to kind of keep the kids out there and active and having fun. It's really geared towards fun and not just and they asked him to pick out his song, and he goes, "Oh, Ain't No Love in Oklahoma" by Luke Combs. He named it right away.
Wow.
Because we saw the movie Twisters, and he loved that song. And then there was a stretch where he would just play that in the song, played that song in the car all the time. He's like, "I want Ain't No Love in Oklahoma." I'm like, okay. So there you go. Anthony Zorzi on X, the broadcasters through the years have referenced friendly wagers on the sausage race during the annual Milwaukee trip. Any interesting wagers or traditions amongst the beat writers in different cities?
Boys?
Yeah,
Well, we used to do that, the prop bets to open the season.
yeah, we would do like prop bets in the past, like, over under home runs for Bryce Harper, when does so-and-so make his major league debut?
When does so-and-so go on the IL?
When so-and-so called up, things like that.
Yeah. How many wins? How many strikeouts does so and so have? So we would have some fun with that. And then back in the day, there was the no hit pool. Jimmy, remember that? Somebody would have a pack of cards.
In certain cities, you go to Cincinnati. There was a guy in Cincinnati who would always be in charge of the no hit pool. And I swear he would do it in the bottom of the first inning if the guy had a 1, 2, 3. I mean, a little too early, but yeah, everybody throws $5 and you pick a number, and I haven't seen the no hit pool in a long time.
Yeah, that kind of died. They kind of died off. So yeah, you'd have a deck of cards, or 10 cards or whatever, and if you pulled out the jack or the joker, you had the pitcher. So you would win if the pitcher threw the no hitter. If you grabbed the 8 card, the 8-hole hitter was your guy. And back in the day, if you grabbed the 9 card, you were screwed because you had drafted the Phillies pitcher or the opposing pitcher to break up the no hitter, and that that almost never happened. So those were a couple for sure.
There was a year, I won't expound, but there was a year when a writer actually ran in the sausage race, and the Phillies dugout found out that certain writer was in the costume, and when he ran by the dugout, they doused him. They got him. It was not me.
That was it. Yeah, that was not you, Jim. You didn't want to pull a hammy. Kevin McConville on Instagram says, "What kind of tomatoes is Jim growing?" And he wants to know any fall crops planned for the year.
My peppers go right up until Halloween. So, and my pole beans right up to Halloween. But yeah, I don't really do like sometimes the cool weather stuff. I do most of that early, like lettuce and stuff. But some of my butternut squash will go right into the fall. They're really starting to pop now. And my tomatoes are very basic. I do some San Marzanos, and I do big boys, I do better boys, I do beefsteak, and I do a lot of cherries, some red, some yellow, all the basics, basically.
And then Jim, I think
I love when your butternuts
Jim,
pop.
I think
Jim, I love when their butternuts pop.
Nothing like a good butternut pop.
You know what? We'll end there. That's a great way to end the show. Phillies play the Marlins this weekend. As you can see, Ruben's got a nice little tropical background going. Wow. I like it.
No golf, Ruben, today?
Nah, shut it down.
Shut it down.
I shut it down so I can do this show.
Yeah, we're going to shut it down now, and we will be back next week.
Alrighty. Smell you later, boys.
Smell you, Jim.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.